Hi everyone, Elliot Jacobson here, and today I have a somewhat different topic than usual. We are going to talk about the comments that I get. And yeah, as usual, I have a PowerPoint, so let's go right to that. So the title of this talk is Scams, Frauds, Lies, Ignorance, and Comments. So to begin with, let's just talk about some of the scams and frauds, just to remind you of what is going on in the Baccarat world today. So these are systems and ideas that are put out there, and they are not mathematically sound. They do not work in a casino environment. Sometimes they are perpetuated by people for money. They will sell their systems to you, or they will write books about them. Sometimes they're just put out there because people need some sort of gratification, thinking that they are being listened to. But in any event, none of these things work. And some of the lies that accompany these scams and frauds, these are not always lies. Sometimes these are things that are just said out of ignorance, are things like there are professionals who use these techniques, that simulations don't match reality, that the method is proven, that they're playing in the short term and not the long term, that casinos fear people who use these methods, that there is some other way of beating the game through intuition or sensing the trends or some way of knowing things. And finally, that winning systems, the systems that actually win in casinos, cannot be simulated. So, all right. Now, the third part of this talk is, of course, the comments and the likes that I get. So many of the comments that are submitted to my YouTube channel perpetuate these falsehoods, whether the scams and frauds or the lies and ignorance, whatever it is. These are just untruths. And some of these are sincere. People actually think they're trying to inform me or tell me something I might not understand. But most of these, honestly, are malicious. They're put out there by people who are actually actively engaged in these frauds and scams, or they're put out there by people in the advantage play world, the people who are legitimately beating the casinos, who are just trolling me. And I know that for a fact because I get some emails from these people, and I know what they're doing, and some of them even tell me that's what they're doing. So as a matter of fact, if you look at my videos, you will see a great number of dislikes, and I have had people actually tell me that they have multiple accounts and they will go through each account and give me a dislike from those accounts. A lot of those people, again, are the scammers and the frauds and the liars, or they're the advantage players trolling me. So I view these dislikes that my videos get as a badge of honor. So just so you know, if you're disliking my video, it means that you are someone who is disputing the truth for whatever your motivation is, and go ahead and dispute it. That even makes me stronger in many ways. So, all right, what I want to do is to talk about one of the sincere comments that I got, and very impressed by this comment. Let me just show it to you. You can pause the video at this point. I am going to present this sort of one sentence at a time and talk about it. So go ahead and pause if you want to make sure that what I present is actually what this person wrote. Okay, so if you are back, then very impressed by this comment. The person took a lot of time. They wrote out their thoughts quite eloquently, and they seemed like they sincerely wanted to explain something to me that I did not know. So let us go ahead and go through this sincere comment one sentence at a time. Hi, thanks for sharing your video. I have liked it. I must say I appreciate what you do on your channel, calling out the system sellers. Well, thank you very much. By the way, in Toastmasters, I learned that you always give a review in what's called a sandwich format, which is you start with a compliment and then you get into the meat of what you want to say. Oh, and start and finish with a compliment. So, I, however, gently and respectfully disagree with your simulation results for the simple reason experienced players will not play in the manner you have simulated. And what he's talking about is that my simulations are often based on all making player bet every single hand at a table minimum. And it is true that no experienced player would play that way. In fact, they would play much worse than that typically. So the best wager in the game is the one with the lowest house edge at the table minimum. That will lose you the least amount of money. Any other system of play will lose more. So I, in general, am talking about these non-commission variants of Baccarat that pay 1 to 2 on a banker winning 6. That has about a 1.4% house edge on the banker bet. So the player bet is the best bet on the table. So in fact, experienced players should be put in air quotes, because experience just means not playing as well as they could because they're making banker bets or tie bets, which have a higher house edge. But he's right. Experienced players don't play how I simulate. They play much, much worse. So you mentioned the house edge of 1.24% on the player bet in Baccarat that you have used in your simulation, but no experienced player will play the game in the manner you have presented. Again, I agree. I.e. only playing the player bet or with an endless martingale progression until the table limit is hit. There are some people who will play the martingale until the limit is hit. But look, again, let me just repeat. Anytime you play different than what I'm simulating, it means you're actually playing a worse game. I'm giving the player the best chance at beating the game by having the person make the wagers with the lowest house edge. So what is true is that any system that is not the one I'm simulating will lose even more money and faster. All right. Your mathematical approach ignores any playing a strategy applied by the player. No, once again, it does not ignore it. I give the best playing strategy. Any other playing strategy is worse than the one I present and will lose more. I could simulate any playing strategy that somebody wants to put out there, but here's the point. That's going to actually have worse numbers, and there are infinitely many such alternate strategies. So the mathematically correct way to analyze any system is to try and give the player the best chance to beat the house. That said, I have analyzed other playing strategies, something called the avant-dernier, which is you bet on what happened the time before last. I've done streak wagers, and I've tried different playing strategies. They all perform exactly according to the house edge. Either you throw chips randomly on the table, so that's one way of playing, just play player or banker at random, or you pick only the player side, as in your simulation, or you play with discipline, a very well thought out system. So it's all considered to be the same by the house advantage advocates. Well, almost. Again, every wager has a different house edge, and so throwing chips randomly on the table is going to be a worse strategy than making only player bets. You pick only the player side, as in your simulation. Again, that's the best choice. Or you have a well thought out system with discipline. Well, there is no such thing as a well thought out system because every system is a losing system. And by a well thought out system, I assume you're taking into consideration some idea, especially using the word discipline, of money management or timing or some intuition about what's going to happen in the future. As if the cards know that you are going to, that you're ahead right now. And so the cards are conspiring if you don't leave the table right now to beat you. But if you leave for a day and you come back tomorrow, then the cards will forget who you are and let you win again. So that is a discipline or timing method. It assumes the cards can tell time, that they can recognize faces. So it's a little bit almost delusional, sorry to say, to even bring up such a system. But I am giving you the benefit of the doubt because this is obviously a sincere comment. So, progressions, stop loss, win stop, trigger events, bet selection, all these parameters leave you math guys cold and you choose to ignore all these. Nope. I covered progressions in several of these videos, and I have several spreadsheets where I discuss them. So Paroli, martingale, D'Alembert. I've covered all of these things. Stop loss and win stop are meaningless because, once again, they assume that cards can tell time. Trigger events, well, I have a spreadsheet that shows you a betting system where you only make a bet after following streaks. So player, you would bet on player. These leave you math guys cold? No, they don't leave us cold. Cold seems to imply that we don't understand them or we poo-poo them. Look, 1 + 1 = 2, right? If you go around trying to tell me 1 + 1 = 3, I'm going to essentially say you're nuts, right? I'm going to ignore you. If you tell me that the moon landing was a fake, and I want to talk about the Mars rover sending back pictures from Mars, I'm going to ignore you. So when you talk about things that are fundamentally nonsense, right? They make no sense mathematically, scientifically. They have no actual effect at the table. When you are putting out systems that actually make people lose more because they inspire them to bet more money, believing they have an edge when they don't. Yeah, those are reckless concepts to be putting out there, even if you're a sincere guy. So yeah, I'm not going to be too happy about those things being out in the public domain and perpetuated, but they are out there and they need to be addressed. So I am the least guy to have been left, leave these things cold, right? I am addressing them head on over and over. All right. So this one is a little bit hard to read, but essentially what the person is saying is that it's my contention that whoever you play doesn't make a difference, and he is saying that's simply not true. So I'm not saying how you play doesn't make a difference. It certainly makes a difference, and here's the difference it makes. Every time you make a bet with a higher house edge, you lose more. Every time you make a bet that puts more money on the table, you lose more. So yeah, how you play makes a difference. The best thing you can do is make the lowest house edge bet at a table minimum. Any other way of playing will lose more. So you are right, how you play does make a difference. And I'm not saying it doesn't make a difference. I'm just saying that none of those systems out there make a difference as far as you potentially beating the game. The truth is, because it's not easy to mathematically evaluate the merit of a playing system and put a specific numerical value on it, you simply choose to ignore this parameter altogether. Once again, I have definitely analyzed playing strategies. I have definitely analyzed all sorts of martingales and progressions. What I can't analyze, of course, are stop loss or stop win. I mean, what do I want to do? Have my computer program stop and pause, and then I'll start my program again tomorrow? You think that overnight somehow the random number generator is going to forget that it was running and start over again and let me win? I mean, it really makes no sense to evaluate these discipline, timing, stop loss, stop win methods. But every other method that you have sort of listed here is something that I've looked at. So I am simply not ignoring any of that stuff. I, however, agree with you on all the system sellers. Nobody will sell a winning system. Wrong. I sell winning systems. In fact, I've got a whole book of winning systems. I'm going to just reach over here and grab it. This is my book, Advanced Advantage Play. And in this book, I have at least 100 pages on Baccarat, on how to beat Baccarat. And everything I present in my book is a scientifically valid system to beat the game. So there are people out there who sell winning systems, and I am among those people. I will show you how to card count or edge sword or play against a known card. So yeah, there are ways of beating the game. And there are other books, most notably by James Grosjean, who cover systems and methods to beat Baccarat. So it's not that nobody will sell a winning system. It's that if you go on something like Amazon and start looking for books that sell any way of beating Baccarat, 90% of them are nonsense. And that's what you're up against. You are up against just this overwhelmingly huge body of ignorance, fraud, lies being thrown at you every time you go look for the truth. Hey, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? There can never be any mathematical proof that a roulette or baccarat playing strategy cannot be profitable. And this is impossible because roulette especially is a random game. Well, now you're getting into my domain with mathematical proofs. Here is a theorem. The theorem is that the theoretical win for the house is equal to the total amount wagered times the house edge. And that theorem plays out over and over again in terms of looking at the actual results in casinos. Now, if any method using intuition or prayer or timing or any of these things was valid, then that equation would not be holding true, right? Because everybody wants to beat the house. Everybody prays. Everybody does their best to use their intuition. And yet that formula holds quarter after quarter when the results are tallied. So if there was just one person who had the intuition to beat the house, who had some sort of way that they could predict the future, then the casino industry would not exist, right? So in some sense, the fact that the casino industry even exists is proof prima facie that intuition, prayer, and all of these other fanciful ideas don't affect reality. So my mathematical proof is that equation, all right? And if you don't believe in reality, I really can't help you out, but proof is proof, and there is a theorem. So yeah, and roulette, it's also a random game. Yes, they're all random games. And random is something that can be quantified, and that's exactly what statisticians do when they test to see whether a vaccine is going to be available for use, whether it passes the trials. Statistics are awfully good for detecting fraud, right? So, but they're also good for things like weather forecasts and medical diagnoses and, I don't know, census, all sorts of things that are somewhat random. We use statistics for all the time. So yeah, you can just diss the whole subject, but you're being sincere, so I am not going to say anything more. Look, I am not a system seller, you say, but rather a businessman running a few businesses in England, and I play roulette for fun. Well, I'm very glad to meet you, and thank you for your very kind comment, and I'm glad you enjoy playing roulette. It's not a game I would recommend to anyone, but if it's something that you enjoy, then I hope you have a good time next time you go out, and I hope you win. All right, further thoughts. Sincere comments are good for the channel. Even if I think that there's a lot of misconceptions and ignorance in them, I'm glad to have these sincere comments be posted. But malicious comments by liars, fraudsters, and scammers, those are bad for the channel. And unfortunately, the ratio of good but ignorant comments to malicious comments by liars and scammers heavily favors the liars and scammers. So for now, my channel is going to have all of its comments moderated, and I'm just going to have to take my best guess when I see comments, whether you are a sincere person or you are a malicious lying fraudster. So please feel free to continue posting your comments. Just be aware, I'm going to moderate, at least for now. So that's it for today. I hope this has been somewhat enlightening to you going through this one reader's comment, and hope to read your comments sometime soon. This is Elliot Jacobson. See you later.